back by popular demand, are the painting classes. Well, maybe not too popular, but some people do like them. I like to do them. So just bear with it. If you're not into it, there'll be more woodworking videos to come. And the painting videos are only going to be once every 2 months, the first weekend of every odd month. So this is the first weekend in September. Let's turn the camera around, give you a quick look at the studio, show you the new painting station, and then start painting. I'm just going to show you this side of the studio because the other side's a mess. Here are the Donald Judd chairs. That's the coffee table from earlier this spring, or end table, I should say, glass top. Little power carving on this piece. This is something I never finished, but it's a book of plans. This is something I might do in the future. This was just sort of a test. And a few paintings. This was from the square painting that I was working on. Here's a Duresta knife. I made this knife with epoxy, probably my only epoxy piece. Fish and lure painting I'm working on. This is the old area where I would paint. And then this is the new cabinet with some storage drawers for paints, some organizational drawers for the panels. So I pull these panels out of here like this. They go up on the easel, and that's how this is all figured out to work. Here's my palette. Let's go ahead and get started. If you want to paint along with me, these panels are 5 3/4 by 7. I like painting small like this because it's very casual. No big deal if the painting doesn't work out. We're going to start with a very simple painting. This is just a piece of the image that I took. So this is the Atlantic Ocean. This is taken from Hartshorn Woods. There's some trees and fields over here, but I'm simplifying it by just giving this simple horizon line. And the idea here is just kind of getting used to mixing colors. So I'll go ahead and draw a quick horizon line, and then we can start mixing some color. So right away, we'll come down here to the palette, grab a little white. This is Cobalt Blue. I'll put a list of all the colors that I use in the description below. And I'll try to get these images up on my website. So maybe you can, if you want to go ahead and paint, you can take a look at them, because sometimes it's just hard to know what to paint. And this is black. We'll take a little of that black, knock that color down a bit. I think one of the hardest things about painting is trying to figure out what to paint. And the nice thing about painting a landscape is the landscape always changes, you know, with light, with season, with time. So we've got this kind of gray blue here. We can actually hold this up to the painting and see that it's lighter than what we have here. And that wouldn't be a problem. We could go ahead and use that, but let's see if we can make it a little darker. Just why not? So a little bit more black. And I'm going to put in a little of this raw umber. I've said it before, one of the big mistakes a lot of people make is they make the colors too bright. So, you know, white and blue makes a lighter color blue, but it makes a very sweet color, where this sort of warms up the color. So we can go ahead and take a look at that again. It's almost like there's some purple in that water. And maybe we'll add a little ultramarine blue to that just to see what happens. And I like to think of just color, just mixing color, creating color spots or notes of color. I don't really care about a perfect painting. I don't care about a lot of detail. Often in my memory. I don't really remember a lot of detail from a landscape. It's more of just a feeling you get. And kind of a nice thing that you can do is you can make these paintings and then put a date on the back of the panel, and it's almost like keeping a journal then. Right? You can even write a few things about the day. This is just something to do other than looking at your phone. So we'll just put a little color there. You could take a little paint thinner, which will spread that color out. And, you know, like what you could do too is you could not paint all the way to the edges. Maybe we won't paint all the way to the edges. We'll just keep it really loose. And so this is on a wooden panel, but you could also paint this on raw canvas or raw linen. A lot of what you're doing has to do with the materials that you're working with. So this painting would completely change if it were on raw linen or raw canvas. So here's our water. And we'll come back down to the image, take a quick look, come back down to the palette. And now we're going to go for that sky. You know, there's the idea here is not to make a perfect painting. That's kind of a lot to ask to do that on video, and it's definitely a lot to ask for me. Maybe some people can do it, but I can't. But I might make a painting that I like. I don't always do, but I might. I've got this kind of, let's see if it's on the video there, yeah. I've got this white here that has a little bit of blue from what I mixed up earlier. I'll grab a little yellow. That warms that up a little bit. And maybe we'll put this right above the water line, and then we'll change it as it goes further up into the sky. I'll use a different brush because that one's pretty blue. Let's see, here's a brush. Grab that, come back to the painting. Maybe throw a little paint thinner on there so it spreads out. Whoa, look at that, what a mess. So I didn't mean for that to happen. That's all right though. So we have that right there. I got a pretty sharp line there. And then I'll grab some of the darker blue that I mixed up for the water, and then bring that up into the sky. I don't know if you can really see that because the light's hitting it weird. So I kind of like that actually. You know what we can do is we'll just bring this over here with this. So I'll often say, let me zoom out a little bit. I'll often say that you can kind of cheat by putting a bad painting into a good frame. Whoa, or at least a fancy frame. And we'll go ahead and throw that in there. I don't know. I mean, I kind of really like the simplicity of it. I think if this was raw canvas, it might work better. But we'll knock it out of there and try to do that with one hand. throw it back up on the easel. And then just maybe mix in that blue. I'll tighten up on this shot here. So this is a this is a very soft brush. I'm grabbing some of that blue. And just because this is, the whole idea of this is meant to sort of give you permission to paint and not care too much, right? So we just took that, and now we're going to go right back up into the sky, and we'll spread the whole thing out and see what happens there. And then we can look at the photograph and see if there's any resemblance. So the paint is really loose here, or not really loose, really thin. You can see the panel's going right through. Let's just go right across with everything. Got a paint hair in there, or brush hair. And if you wanted to kind of play around with it, you could take a little white on a brush like this and throw in some white caps. Might really ruin the whole thing, but who knows. I don't know about that, so I'll go ahead and let's throw it back in that fancy frame again, see if that helps. So if we back up, like if you saw that on a bookshelf, you would immediately think, oh, that's the ocean. And so that's kind of cool. You can make a simple painting just like that. All right, so let's just call this one done. I might go back into it down the road, we'll see. But for now, if you want to make a painting, there's a simple painting to make. I actually like it. It's really just, it's just a color field painting, you know? It's just sort of like a, it's definitely a landscape or a seascape, but it's a color field painting, you know, no different than somebody like a Mark Rothko or something. All right, let's do one more since we have some time left over. This next one, I don't have a, let me lock these wheels down. I don't have a photograph of it. I have a video over here. Again, this is, let's see, maybe we can get the sound going too. So look at this field of green, the gray sky, the woods over here, the trees, the ocean's out there. So what I like to do is just pick one area and simplify it, and you just got a few notes of color here, here, and here, and we'll try to do something like that over on this panel. So now I'll just tighten up on that. Let me bring the easel closer so I can get the palette as well. So here's the painting, or the panel. All right, that'll work. Okay, we'll come down here first and mix some type of a green This is permanent green. And I'll just grab that blue and this white just to use it up. Throw that in there. Grab a little of this yellow. Even if you're just making notes of color, it's a great exercise. I mean, the idea of putting on some good music or something and just doing a little painting, take the pressure off. You don't have to make a painting of anything. It can just be notes of color. So if this looks like a landscape when it's done, I guess that's a bonus, but it doesn't have to. I'm more interested in getting colors that I like. Like I kind of like that. I'm going to add a little of this. It's either burnt umber or raw umber. They're very similar. But that looks pretty nice. I like that color. It looks pretty good on the camera. All right, I'm just going to lift this off with my palette knife. Come over here. I figure I'll try to do 2 paintings because if you've lasted this long, maybe you enjoy these videos and you might want to make a painting. So now you have 2. All right, look at all that paint on the brush there. Let's go ahead and just throw it all in. I don't know if I mentioned it, but what you're painting on, you know, just take the pressure off. You could cut a piece of cardboard and prime it with, I use Fresh Start. It's a Benjamin Moore acrylic primer. And I just use that on the panels, but you could do that to cardboard, and that way, if the painting works, you can always mount that cardboard to a panel and frame it if you like. I'm not that concerned about archival. People get crazy. I mean, Jackson Pollock painted with house paint. All right, so now we have this, which I like. I like this green a lot. Let's get some like a kind of a watery bluer gray here, then go up into a full gray, and then maybe work on this woodsy area over here. So we'll go back down to the palette. And nice big piece of white. A little of this cobalt blue, some of the black that's on the palette. And we'll put this note of color right over here. Right here. And let's see. Looking for, if the brush is really stiff, it sort of pulls the paint off as opposed to applying the paint. So we'll go ahead and put that right here. And this doesn't really have to represent the landscape that I was looking at. I'd like to capture that feeling of that day is almost more important. So we've got that there. Now we'll go back down and mix up something lighter. So we'll pull another big piece of white. Make sure that I'm on camera, yep. Maybe a little bit of this raw umber there. Oh, that's a lot. Actually, it's kind of working. I think that's working. Maybe a little more of that. Okay, let's go ahead and throw that in the whole sky area. If you can make a very simple painting that actually works. And when I say works, it just looks good. To me, that's a success. Like, I like this, what's happening right there, a lot. Sometimes not going out to the edge is kind of a nice effect. I have all this paint here, so when I go to put the darker sort of tree line up, it may not work for me. I could have avoided that area, and that might have been a better way to go about it, but I didn't. So let's go ahead and see if we can just mix up a darker note of a dark green. So that darker note really comes from the absence of light underneath the trees. So the top in front of the tree would be much lighter. I actually like that color green a lot. Maybe I'll throw some of that up there and then fill in. And then under the tree where the light doesn't hit would be darker. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It's just the absence of light is dark. I am searching for a brush. Let's just, look at that. It's not going to work for me. See, it's because it's so soft. So I'm going to lay the paint in here really heavy, which is, it's kind of laying it on top of wet paint. And then I'll see about mixing up something really dark to go in here. I don't like that. That's just, it's too close. Those colors are it's like too soft or something. Let's see if we can get a darker green. I might actually scrape that off. See what happens if I do that. Right, so this should give you some confidence in that there's no real rules. You know, whatever works, works. All right, so now I'll go back down here. And grab a little black, put that in there. And I have a bunch of brushes in this drawer, I forgot. Right in here. These are just cheap brushes. I never spend a lot of money on brushes. Now let's get some real dark green going. And maybe a lighter green. A little yellow, a little green, some white. You could always go back to the painting too. I'm not doing that because I'm trying to finish. At least I'm trying to get to this painting to a place where I feel like I can stop. But you could walk away from it, come back a day or two later when the oil paint is dry, and then you can, work on some of those details if you like. But if you can make a painting in one sitting that actually works, I usually think that there's kind of an energy to that. I don't really like what's happening here. Got to dead that down a little bit with some white, maybe some of that blue. It's kind of a different color, but we'll see what happens. So it's sometimes much better to walk away from a painting. And if you want to keep painting, just start another painting. That way you have a bunch of paintings that you've started and you can just go back to them whenever you want. And that's the beauty of painting small like this. So let's go ahead and see what happens if we throw this here. I don't know what that just did. Does that work? I don't know. And maybe this looks a little harsh, so maybe if I just kind of, what the hell? Let's look at the painting and then look at the image over here. So here we go. There's the image. So it might capture the feel. I think I screwed up the sky when I pulled that other brush. Let's see if we can fix that. That one brush is horrible because all the bristles seem to be falling out of it. This brush might work. Here's a newer brush. Maybe I can clean that bristle off first. And then just work this in. All right, let's throw it in the frame and see if that works. Maybe I'll get a different frame. See, I feel like the atmosphere is captured in the painting, meaning it's a kind of a grayer type day. See, I like that. I don't know if I love the detail on the right-hand tree side, but I like what's going on with that foreground with the lighter green. I think they're pretty cool. Just casual paintings, that's what it's all about. All right. Well, I don't know what to say. I like the paintings. I know that they're pretty loose. But see, like I like to look at a painting like this in a bookshelf. It's a way of bringing color into architecture. So if you've made like a built-in for your home and you do a lot of woodworking, working with paint is a way to bring color into, generally you're working with very sort of earth tones when you're doing woodworking. This is a way to kind of get away from that and bring color into your home. So like I can totally see that the seascape is sort of a gray, overcast day, which it was. This was sort of just the beginning of the hurricanes that we were getting a week or two ago. And same with the one that has the field and the tree in it. Again, it still has that feel. So they're very loose. It's almost like, I think they call it free writing, where you just write. Same here. It's not about getting every bit of detail down. but at the same time, I think there's enough detail in these paintings to get a feel of what that day was like. And to me, that's pretty cool. So hope you enjoyed this. I'll get images of these paintings up on my website, so you could actually just copy them if you wanted to. That's kind of a good practice. Sometimes it's easier copying a painting than it is a photograph, but I'll get the photographs up as well. Thanks for tuning in, and next time you see me, we'll be down in the wood shop.